Today I'll tell you about 7 more creatures, demons, gods, and bizarre beings from Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is a really good cartoon, one of my favorites actually. Let's begin with Benton Tarantella, a serial killer in the Courage universe, nothing more and nothing less. As incredible as it may seem, huh?
I am Benton Tarantella.
In the first episode he appears, he introduces himself to Eustace and Muriel as the great independent director Benton Tarantella.
The famous independent film director.
And right away you can tell he's a zombie, right? But Muriel and Eustace are unaware of Benton's plan to use their farm to shoot his new movie, likely titled Return of the Zombies on the Farm or something similar. I
want to make my movie here on your farm.
Eustace initially refuses, but when Benton offers a large sum of money, he readily accepts. And in this scene, his disguise starts to fall apart and everything. Courage notices and tries to warn Muriel, but Benton says she would be a star in his movie, and she doesn't pay much attention to Courage, like always, right?
That's not exciting.
Well, then Benton goes to film down in the basement with Muriel and Eustace, who keeps wanting to be in the movie and asking if he'll get paid more because of it. Meanwhile, Courage goes to his computer and asks who Benton Tarantella is.
Sorry, there are no records of Benton Tarantella or his movies in the independent film databases.
And the computer says it's never heard of any director by that name. However, there is a Benton Tarantella who is a serial killer. He posed as a director to lure victims, working with a partner named Volkheim. Both were imprisoned, but Volkheim was released. But Tarantella stayed there and died. Afterward, there's a compelling scene where Courage inquires about what happened to Volkheim.
Hey, where's the other guy? Volkheim!
Courage celebrates by shouting, "Yeah," but then PC says that Volkheim was buried exactly on the farm where he is.
He was buried in the cemetery. Great. Where was this house built?
That's not good.
Then Courage's expression changes quickly. Man, this scene is really good. Man, Courage is really great, isn't he? Damn, come on, calm down, Morena. Courage attempts to alert Muriel, but Benton reappears on the screen, praising her potential stardom, distracting her from the warning. Benton locks Courage in a chest and asks Eustace to record the scene where he plans to resurrect his partner on the farm. The projects join forces, Volkheim comes back, but at the moment when both of them, Benton and Volkheim, are about to devour Muriel, Courage manages to get the script from inside the chest. Don't ask me how. He rewrites the whole script, and since Eustace didn't know what to do, Benton tells him to read the script. And he reads the whole script that Courage changed, which tells him to free Muriel and for both of them to return to the grave. Volker complains about Benton as he circles around, and Courage ends up burying both of them.
I can't believe it. You're a terrible screenwriter.
If you like these videos where I talk about cartoons, animated shows, movies, and so on, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave your like, share the video, and hype it up too, because it really helps me out, okay? If you want to know more about legends, mythologies, and everything else, check out the pinned comment where I'll leave some links. Join the Discord and follow me on Instagram. Now, let's discuss Senior Mal, also linked to Benton Tarantella, who returns in Season 3, where Eustace, Muriel, and Courage are leaving the movie theater.
The movies are a drag. I thought it was wonderful.
Actually, they were watching 101 Dalmatians, or 101 Dalmatians, if I'm not mistaken, and they end up running into Benton Tarantella. Interestingly, they don't recognize him initially. And then Benton invites them to take part in a television show he's creating, which is called Nervous and Mean People. And since he promises a lot of money and also recognition, both to Muriel and Eustace, they end up accepting. Ben begins recording their mean actions, but there's more to the story.
Hey, the stupid dog is just like the stupid hot dog.
Muriel and Eustace get excited at the farm as Benton records them doing mean things, causing them to get carried away. Benton asks them for a break and goes to the kitchen. Courage follows him and notices he's talking to Lazo. Courage says the real star of the show will come out from behind the camera, and when he goes back to film Muriel and Eustace, he explains that that camera was special, that it records the true essence of a person. And from the television, Senior Mal comes out, who is basically the personification of Eustace's own evil.
Say hello to our star. The living personification of all the farmer's evil.
Senior Mauro becomes the star, cursing at Muriel and mistreating Courage and Eustacio. Muriel and Courage suffer mentally, but Eustacio doesn't as he profits from the situation.
To fix things.
In this scene, Courage pretends to throw Muriel into quicksand he placed in the living room without explaining how he did it. Benton, realizing Courage would surpass Senior Mal in evil, declares him the show's new star. Senior Mal departs, followed by Eustacio, who sought to earn more money with him. And then Courage kicks the chair Benton is sitting on and he falls into the quicksand. At the episode's end, Senior Mal and Eustacio are seen doing a new show. And in the end, Senior Mal says he's going to take a lot of money from Eustacio, and the episode ends with Eustacio crying there. Let's discuss Lequaque, a duck who is essentially a thief. That is, if it is indeed a duck. You can't be sure, but for Lequaque, I believe it's a duck. Well, he appears in an episode where Muriel ends up losing her memory because something falls on her head. Eustace works on the roof, but she asks him to stop, worried he would wake the non-existent neighbors. The thing falls on her head and she gets amnesia. Since she ends up forgetting who Courage was, Eustace takes advantage and kicks him out of the house and says that she would actually be a slave wife. Those are his words, not mine.
Slave wife. Your job is to clean, cook, do the shopping, wash clothes, and everything else I can think of.
Courage then asks his computer for help. He sends a message asking for an amnesia specialist, and that message ends up landing in Lequaque.
And he ends up seeing it.
He sees it as a chance to rob the farm. He goes there, knocks out Eustacio, and locks him in a small room while trying to torture Muriel to make her reveal the location of the jewels, house deed, and similar valuables. Every time Courage tries to help by entering the house, he is chased by a henchman wielding a large sledgehammer who kicks him out. In one instance, a henchman tries to make Muriel reveal the location of the house deed by using stinky cheese. Courage arrives and shuts the door when Lequaque pursues him. Lequaque bangs on the door, and upon opening it, a giant rat hired by Courage punches Lequaque, eats the cheese, and takes payment from Courage.
Mr. Rat, there's no one to blame.
At the end of the episode, Courage manages to call the Nowhere police, but they take a little while, just enough time for Lequaque to almost pull Courage into a vacuum cleaner, which ends up exploding. Then the police show up and arrest Lequaque. But near the end of the episode, it shows that he ended up flipping the police van, comes out wearing the police uniform, and tells us that we haven't seen the last of Lequaque. Katz, which I thought was Katz, but the dubbing says Katz. He's the owner of a hotel, a really bizarre hotel, that appears in the very first episode of Courage. Courage's family ends up at this hotel on the last day of their vacation, which honestly, I don't even know what kind of vacation it was.
This is a mediocre place to end our mediocre vacation.
Courage is denied entry to the motel because they don't allow dogs. He is locked outside while Eustace sleeps through the episode and Muriel takes a bath. During the night, Katz leaves a mysterious box in front of Courage. When Courage opens it, a bizarre spider emerges and chases him. Courage tries various methods to remove his collar, including a chainsaw, chemicals, and a flamethrower, but ultimately succeeds using just his teeth. It's revealed that Katz has an affinity for spiders, raising them himself. Muriel, Eustace, and Courage are to become the spider's meal that very night.
Hello, my loves. Dinner is here.
I ended up going into a motel, and I quickly try to help Muriel, who's being attacked in the bathtub by one of the spiders. It takes a long time for the spider to attack Muriel, and when it finally does, it can't even manage it and ends up going down the drain. Meanwhile, Eustace is sleeping really heavily and doesn't even wake up when Katz puts him in one of the spider pits there. He ends up being saved by Courage, and at the moment when Courage is taking Eustace out of the bizarre spider room, Courage throws Eustace on top of Katz and ends up escaping from him. Katz corners Courage against a wall, seemingly about to attack him. Surprisingly, they start playing catch instead, tossing a small ball against the wall.
A little bit of sports before dying, my dear.
And at the end of the game, Katz grabs one of his spiders and tries to put it on Courage when he ends up getting hit with a racket by Muriel herself. So Muriel, Eustace, and Courage leave. So Muriel, Courage, and Eustace, who is still sleeping and still inside the spider's cocoon, leave the place.
What a beautiful blanket that Govo got.
Ghidorah, who would be a villain in Godzilla, surprisingly, seems to encourage Congo Ward. And there's an episode where Muriel ends up being invited to something, a presentation.
I won the Zither contest. I'm going to play my Zither live on the radio.
They go to New York and are greeted by a giant cockroach whose name was repeated 300 times but is now forgotten. I'll even ask the editor to put it there for you.
By the way, my name is Bushwick, but call me Schwick.
Well, then the cockroach takes Eustace, Muriel, and Courage to a rehearsal room, which is really bizarre. The area contains numerous skeletons, an odd door, and a peculiar creature. And he asks Courage to go pick up a delivery for him. And if he didn't do it, Muriel would be done for.
Bring this package to me before the curtain rises, or it will be the end for the old lady Sitara.
Courage reaches a peculiar building and ascends the stairs, opening multiple doors along the way. The first one, he ends up seeing Ghidorah. In the second door, he sees a shark, which really scared me, as I fear the deep sea. Behind the third door, he sees a little girl playing the violin. He initially finds it cute, but she turns to him and makes a bizarre face. The claymation animation in this scene makes it even stranger. The Vandals of the Windmill is a really cool episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog for me, because it talks about a local legend from the farm itself. Basically, the episode starts with some problems with the farm's electricity, and because of that, Eustace has to fix a windmill.
Did you think that after all the hours you spent patching it up, it would be fixed?
But every time Eustace is there messing with it, and the windmill stops spinning, Courage notices that something is coming from the horizon. And when Courage is left alone, they're holding the wrench so the windmill wouldn't stop spinning. He ends up falling and the windmill stops. And with that, the Vandals appear, who are basically zombie soldiers, zombie knights who want to attack the farm. When Eustacio comes back, he goes up to fix the windmill by himself, and the windmill blades start to release dust or something that was covering some magical symbols. Courage climbs up there and takes a picture of these symbols and sends it to his computer, and the computer tells him a story about that windmill. According to the computer, about 200 years ago, the first owner of the farm built this windmill so he wouldn't depend on a hydraulic system controlled by some Vandals who controlled the region's energy. And as soon as the water ran out, the Vandals started to hate this farmer and wanted to destroy him. To keep the Vandals away, the farmer put some magical symbols on the windmill, and according to the legend, when the windmill stopped spinning, the Vandals would come back from the dead and attack whoever owned it. In this case, Eustace, Muriel, and Courage.
Lucky for us that this is just a...
When Courage goes back to the mill where Eustace and Muriel are, the mill stops spinning, and then the Vandals show up and manage to rip off Eustace's and Muriel's heads. Incredibly, they both survive, their heads continuing to talk and their bodies still moving. After they temporarily recover their heads, they manage to rebuild the mill, and with that, the Vandals go away. Now let's go to the episode about the thumb. And I would advise you, if you're watching this video while having lunch, dinner, or even a snack, to stop, because this episode is pretty disgusting. Well, it starts with Eustace at night having an itch on his foot. When Muriel wakes up, she realizes he has a fungus. A really, really bad fungus, because it makes Eustace's foot turn purple with some pus-filled bumps, right? Muriel suggests home remedies for Eustace's foot, like rubbing cactus on it and putting it in a bucket of lobsters. When they don't work, she tells him to see a doctor, but he refuses, saying he just needs rest. After a nap, he wakes up to find his foot has taken over his entire body. Then it absorbs Eustace, and you see a gangster foot. That's right, a gangster foot named Dedon. He forced Courage to drive the truck to rob a bank. They also attempted a train robbery, but everything went awry. So while Dedon is there in the house, trying to plan another heist, Courage manages to get to his computer and ask for help. The computer requests a sample of the fungus from Eustace's foot. Courage, kind of using a fishing rod, grabs a ball of pus and puts it in the computer. Then the computer says what he could do is kind of spit on the foot because the cure would be dog saliva, but Courage doesn't spit. He licks the whole foot, and then Eustace goes back to normal. And at the end of the episode, the fungus ends up taking over Courage's tongue. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to Hypar's channel, and comment with any series, cartoon, or topic you'd like me to cover in a creature list. Thanks, see you, bye.